How are we, guys? We are back. Dan Hunt here with Meraki Performance, here with the Heads or Tails YouTube show, podcast at the CatchMark Studios in Whitehall, Michigan. Heads or Tails podcast here, guys, is where we dive into both sides of the coin as it relates to program development, specifically how to develop the individual mindset of athletes and team members, but also leaning in and how do we develop the overall mentality as a team, and how do those two things really play together, right? And so with Meraki Performance, we really lean into helping individuals and teams be at their best when it matters the most, all right? And so we try to leverage physiology, the human connection and how we interact, that physical connection and cohesion within a team. And then also leveraging psychology, the mindset, our shared attitudes and beliefs, your attitudes and beliefs, to then put you in the place that you can perform at your best when it matters the most. And so we dive into all these concepts and strategies and principles that we have researched, we've put to the test, we've used with high-performing teams from athletics at the Division I level, Division II, NAIA level, Division III, even into high schools, as well as working with businesses, okay? And so over the last, couple shows, couple months, we've been talking a lot about the performance cycle. We've been digging into the beginning of the performance cycle, the struggle phase, into being able to identify a release, getting into that performance, and then on the backside, how are we recovering? And we really hit recovery hard, especially going into this season as we're ramping up for fall seasons. We're actually in full swing of fall sports here in Michigan. We dove a lot into recovery and had a friend of mine, Dr. Holly Kendra, into the podcast studio, and we talked about ways that we can recover. And so here's what I really want to start out. I don't have, a lot of times I come into these and I have this outline and this plan, but I really want to just hit on some themes today. I know we're in full swing of seasons. I really want to hit on some themes. And here's one of the things that I want to hit on is that information is great. All right. Seeking information, reading information, going to different resources as we desire to be a resource here, especially in West Michigan, is great to get information. But the reality is that information is nothing if we don't put action towards it. And I'm sharing that because I interact obviously with a lot of athletes and a lot of coaches that are constantly seeking information from different places, are constantly trying to find that competitive edge and whoever's trending, let's go see what they're doing. The reality is that we take a lot of that information in, but we don't end up taking action on it. We'll go read this book, but we don't take anything from that and directly implement it to how we lead our team or how we interact with our team day to day, right? We'll go watch this podcast, or we'll go watch a YouTube video, we'll go see different people trending and we'll go, yeah, that thing. But then we don't take the principles or the actions that they have there and put it forward in our performance or what we do day to day. And so if you're not willing to take action, if you're not willing to digest information and say, how does this apply? How can I make it apply? Nothing changes. Nothing changes. And actually, I would maybe even argue that you end up putting yourself in less of a favorable position because you know more than you did previously and you're still doing nothing about it. And what I want to say with this is that a lot of times we wait for our mood to change or emotions to build, or like I need to be motivated. I need to have these feelings. The thing is that mood, those feelings follow action. That's physiology. Physiology at its finest is that there is going to be plenty of days that you don't feel like it, but your mood will shift when you start putting action forward. All right? And what I'm sharing that today because I want us to realize that we need to grab a hold and say, yes, like here's some things that I can do. Here's the things I'm willing to do. Here's the things I'm implementing. And that is what I need to be focused on as I shift and move things forward, okay? Because we look at environments. We look at environments around us and like, hey, I would perform better if the culture was different. And if this were to take place and that were to take place. And now we're in week 3 for a lot of sports here, week 4 for a lot of sports. Okay. And the thing is that we might not be where we want to be. That could be a reality for somebody listening here right now. All right. This could be your reality in life. You might not be where you want to be. Okay. But the thing is that you need to check your environment internally and ask yourself, is that environment, is that internal culture, is that my internal space, is that at its best right now? Because that is the one thing you have control over. And that is the one thing that actually impacts the environment around you the most. Okay. We look at, the culture and the systems and the environment and how all these things are playing into how I can't be at my best. All right. And I'm not saying those can't be realities. I'm not saying that those things cannot be they're not true. They absolutely can be true. You can be in an environment that suppresses skill. You can be in an environment that is performance diminishing. You can be in an environment that is extremely difficult to bring your best to constantly. I cannot discount that. But here's the thing that you can control more than anything is the internal environment. Your actions, your habits, your behaviors, those things are a system. Those things are things that you have 100% control over. And those things are the things that you need to focus on to to leverage your influence and to impact the environment around you the best or to be better, right? That's your space of influence. And all too often we give that away. We give that away to other people and say, well, because of this, I just can't. Because this, I can't. And we need to be able to say, no, how do I influence this environment? How do I bring more of myself? And it's not going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy. But based on who you are, how you want to show up, the actions, habits, and behaviors that you need to have to bring your best, are you doing that to 100%? Are you doing that to the best of your ability? Did you get up this morning and get just a little bit better in those things? Because that is your greatest impact and influence, not only for yourself, but for the world around you, okay? And I just feel like somebody might need to hear that, all right? I know more days than not, I need to hear that. As I look around and go, hey, this and that, there's a lot of things outside of our control. There's so many things that we cannot control, but we can influence. And the thing that I have found over the years, not only personally for myself, but then coaching and teaching others, especially in athletics and even business and life, is like, at the end of the day, if I can focus on what I can do, if I can focus on what I have control over, if I can focus on bringing my best to environments that are extremely difficult to be in, I have found that that's my greatest point of impact. That actually I can shift the environment around me. That actually I can move things forward and shift it closer to what brings out my best and everybody else's best around me. All right. And with this, I want you to dive into this idea today. Okay. As we talked about, the environment in our actions, habits, and behaviors and things like that. I want you to dig in and think about this is the idea that you can never outperform your self-image. You cannot outperform how you view yourself. All right. And so if you're in an environment right now and you believe you have zero influence, zero power, you can't do this, you can't do that, that's your performance. You just set the bar. That's your bar. I can't do this, and this, and this, and that. Like, you just said it. That's your performance bar, all right? You can never outperform that. You will continue to hit that mark or even lower, right, for multitudes of different reasons, okay? But you will never outperform your self-image, how you view yourself. And I want you to ask yourself, a lot of us have really weak self-images because we don't put it to the test. We go and we seek competition of people that we are already more advanced than. We already have a superior skill than. And so we go there and we go, yep, got the result. Like, just getting results, I need you to understand this. Just getting the result does not reinforce a self-image that's strong. Just like winning over and over and over again, if the challenge is not high, is not going to increase your self-image. Putting yourself to the test, in training and preparation and the work that you do, in the intentional focus that you give to reinforce this performance enhancing thought and view of yourself is actually what builds that self-image. I was talking to a team the other day and I said, I don't know, like scientifically, if you could really break this down, but like my self-image, I think that if you were to break down percentage-wise, what should make up your self-image, I think that like maybe 5% of it should come from results. Maybe 5%, right? You won, nobody cares. Keep working hard, right? You got the result. Hey, at the end of the day, in a day, tomorrow morning, nobody cares. Keep working hard, right? The other piece is maybe 5% of that. 10% should be around your teammates, because the way that they perceive you does matter, all right? You should have a level of trust. And I'm not saying that it should be everything, but I'm saying that you should be accountable and you should allow them to be able to see you in spaces and stressful times and good times, whatever it is. And you should allow them to hold you accountable, to have some input in how you view yourself or how that builds that self-image. I'm not saying everything, but I can tell you that there's teams that I work on that when there's certain people that say, hey man, this, or I see this, or they call out a blind spot or whatever it may be, it makes me think twice and it allows me to keep getting better, all right? But here's what I want you to realize is that 85%, right? I think the math is probably right on that. 5% of results, 10%, right? Probably 85% should be, what is the work that I'm putting in? What does the preparation look like? Right? What is the effort, the attitude that I'm bringing? What is my ability to increase my capacity in stressful times? What is, is my ability, my actual skills growing? Okay. How am I leaning in and reinforcing who I am and how I show up, even when it doesn't feel good, even when circumstances are difficult, right? Like that should be what reinforces that self-image. That should be what strengthens that self-image. That should be the thing that really drives that forward. And you should seek opportunities to challenge that. Seek opportunities to build that. Seek opportunities to put it to the test. So that when you go in on a Friday night, when you go in and you're competing on a Tuesday night, Tuesday evening, right? That you aren't walking in going, oh man, I hope so. It's like, no, you're going in saying, this is who I am. This is how I show up. I know how I'm going to show up in this. Like I have turned over every rock and I believe that they're going to come. Enemy has a vote, right? They're going to come at me, but I trust how I'm going to respond and how I'm going to show up because I've trained for this, because I've developed an internal view of myself that drives the actions and habits and behaviors that I know put me in the greatest position to not only be at my best, but also to get me the result that I desire, okay? It's that self-image. And so a lot of us get into those challenging times in the competition, and because the result matters more than anything else to validate the self-image, because the percentages are out of whack, that when things aren't going well, what do? Oh man, we suck. No, you're terrible. And we allow avoid the self-talk, right? Did you train for it? Did you train through that negative self-talk? Did you put yourself in a situation where that came up and you had to recognize it and look it in the eyes and be able to focus on something else? Because if you didn't, like you can't just develop the skill in the moment and expect it to happen. That's why training for these things is so important. And in an environment where we have so many inputs, we've talked about this before, we have so many different things vying for our attention. We have so many things that try to reinforce things that might not be aligned with who we are and where we want to go. It's very easy to slip out and be able to focus on those things. All right. And so today with this, I want to give you some practical things that you can do. Some things that don't wait to take this action. Begin to take it now so that you can begin building that self-image of how you want to show up and be able to show up how you want to show up when it matters most, okay? And the first thing you need to be able to do is clearly identify who do you aspire to be. Begin to wrestle with that idea. Begin to wrestle with who do you aspire to be when things are great? when things are bad, when things are challenging, when you're facing adversity, when you didn't, maybe it's after you didn't get the result that you wanted, but you want to show back up and keep putting in, like, who do you aspire to be? And the thing with the word aspire, right? Aspiration, the definition of that is to actually inhale air into your lungs. It's like in those moments that you feel most down, defeated, you can't get up, you need something to focus on, to breathe air in, to bring air into your lungs, to bring life back to you, to move forward, right? That aspire to the direction in the person that you desire to be. Okay. And if you're like, yo, I'm that person right now. Great. Now you've gotten to that point. Now, like, expand your mind, expand your vision for where you want to go and who you want to be, right? If you're already that person, then how do you increase, how do you live with greater depth? How do you live with greater impact? How do you increase skills and obtain and do more, right? Increase your capacity. That's a really difficult question to wrestle with, especially if you're somebody that's a high school or a high school student athlete or a college student athlete, and you're trying to figure out who you are. I get it, right? But who you are should not be predicated or dictated or greatly influenced by the environment around you, right? Especially if that environment is not bringing out the best in you. You should anchor in, and maybe it's people. Maybe something you can do is identify who are some people that inspire me and what are some characteristics that they have that I aspire to embody. Like, I want to embody these things, okay? But try to begin to clearly articulate this. And this doesn't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to be this perfect statement, but this needs to be something that you begin to wrestle with and you begin to come back to. You begin to come back to, because when the challenge happens, when you face the challenge, when you put it to the test, you're able to view everything that you're experiencing through that and say, is this reinforcing who I aspire to be? Is this helping me build up to who I aspire to be? Is this helping me move forward in who I aspire to be, right? To begin to give yourself, again, actions moving forward, all right? And this is an example I'll give you. My number one team is my family at home. And so I have a son right now that, like many of us, back to school, we're getting a little bit of sickness around. Like, our immune systems are taking a hit and a little compromised and challenged. And so he hasn't been feeling good the past couple of days. And I came home actually yesterday and he's like, look, I'm not going to practice, Dad. And I said, hey, I just want to say we do tough things. And I walked away. And I came back a couple minutes later and I asked him, so, hey, man, what do you decide? It's up to you. He goes, I just don't know. I don't know. I said, hey, man, look, I want you to focus on the fact that you might not be at 100%. You might be dealing with circumstances that aren't great. You might not be feeling the greatest, okay? But I don't need you to bring the 100% from 2 days ago when you were feeling good. Like, I need you to bring 100% of what you have. And so if you physically can do it, I challenge you to do it, because we do tough things, right? We do hard things. That's who we are. That's what we do. That's who we aspire to be in every situation, right? So I walked away and I kept getting ready. I got his little brother ready for his practice. And I'm like, all right, man, we're rolling. Like, we're getting ready to go. What are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to practice, right? And so he goes to practice and we process through afterwards. Like, yes, was it challenging? Yes, was it tough? Absolutely, right? What did we do well? What did we not do well? Did we show up and be tough? Okay. And what are we doing about it? And the thing that he took away more than anything is this increased confidence that I put to the test who I am and who I view myself as. I view myself as a tough person. I view myself as not somebody that suppresses emotion, not somebody that says, hey, I don't feel anything. No, we don't play that game. We view as like, hey, we see these things, we lean into these things, we develop through these things, right? And so we view ourselves in a way that it's not going to be the circumstances around us that dictate how we show up, that we dictate how we show up, right? And that's what he did. And so he's walking away now, being able to say, I did that thing. And so in future times when he's not feeling the greatest, guess what he's going to be able to do? He's going to be able to show up more authentically of who he is and who he desires to be, not based on feelings, not based on emotion, not based on all these things. And don't get me wrong, feelings matter, emotions matter, but not, they like feelings, this might come off real harsh, but I'm sorry, My feeling to stay in bed doesn't matter if I desire to be great. If I desire to be the most healthy person, like my feeling to go get McDonald's, my feeling to go eat Taco Bell, my feeling to go whatever is not going to dictate how I want to show up. If I want to be the most healthy, if I want to be like the best in shape, if I want to be the greatest athlete I absolutely can be, then the feeling to go do that doesn't make sense to me. That diminishes who I am. And I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to shrink to that. That has to be the mindset. That has to be the view of things. All too often we go, oh, but I'm just not feeling like it. You might not feel like it, but how do you want to show up? And I think a challenge that we face a lot in athletics, a lot right now in the world that we have, is when people don't feel like it, we allow ourselves to shrink because of that feeling. We allow ourselves to like, yep, I'm just not going to do it. And a big piece is because we don't have clarity of who we aspire to be. We don't have clarity of who we desire to be. But if we begin to create clarity around it, we can ask ourselves, what's the next right move to move in that direction, to keep living out who that is, right? To keep taking strides towards being that individual, all right? And that's a challenge for us. That's a challenge that we need to be able to look in the mirror and begin to take action today on, all right? Because it's not going to happen by chance. This isn't intentional. This is a purposeful. This is a highly frustrating at times thing that we need to be able to give ourselves to this process, okay? And we need to be able to self-reflect. And we need to be able to say, yeah, maybe I didn't get the result today. Maybe I didn't get the outcome that I want. Maybe my 100% today wasn't what it was yesterday, okay? That could have been reality. But did I bring everything I could today? Did I show up and did I do the things that I said I was going to do? Did I actually execute on the habits, actions, and behaviors that I know lead to me being my best and to performing at my best? That's the question. And progress towards that is what we need to evaluate. And I have seen this over and over again, that when we are focused on that, when we really drive and see where's the progress of that and how are we moving with that progress, right? We more consistently get the outcomes we desire. We more consistently put ourselves in position to be at our best when it matters the most. We more consistently perform at a high level, which then ends up getting the results that we want, right? And it's shifting that and putting it back into our control and having the mindset and the view that individually, how am I doing, right? How am I doing this? And then being able to execute that on that every single day, okay? And so I want us to process this. I want us to take note of this. I want us to stop giving authority and stop giving power and stop giving our control, the control of how we show up to everybody else, right? You didn't win week 1? Okay, get back to work. You didn't get the result week 2? Did you get better from week 1? Good. Keep getting better. That should be the focus, right? Because that focus is what puts you in the best position to get the win week 3, right? You didn't get playing time this week. Like you're coming off the bench and you want to be the starter. Okay, then put in the work and practice. Focus on being the best teammate you can be, the best on scout team you can be, you like refining your mindset and bringing everything that you can. Don't waste a second of practice, right? How many seconds do you have in practice? When you fail, when you make a mistake, when coach gets on you, don't get in your feelings and go, oh man, poor me, right? What's the message? Is the message going to allow you to get better? Then use the information in the message and don't allow 3 seconds or 10 seconds of an interaction dictate the other 10,000 seconds of how the practice goes. Don't waste it. Let the 10 seconds be the 10 seconds and then leverage it and use it to enhance the rest of the practice, right? That's an application of you being able to filter through and say, who do I aspire to be and how do I take that information and put it to work? And we do that over and over and over and over again. There's no quick fix. There's no magic pill that you can take. There's no like, just do this one thing and you're always going to bring your best, right? It's slowly over time that you build this self-image, that you develop it, that you put yourself in situations that it breaks it down so you can build it back up. It's just like muscle. It's just like muscle. And muscle growth happens when you have proximity to failure. When you have proximity to actually failing and not being able to get the result that you want. And the more that you flirt with that, the more that you put yourself right on the edge of that, the more that you can learn about yourself and strengthen that self-image to show up even stronger next time, right? And again, too often we won't flirt with that. Make friends with that. Right? I think that's probably the gift of my life, I would say. Like for a long time, I always looked at the challenges that I experienced and the things that I went through in life, like they happened to me and poor me. And when I began to look at all of those things that had happened for me and how it reinforced and helped me develop into who I aspire to be, totally changed everything for me. And I wish I would have done this in athletics. I wish I would have done this when I was competing because I would have been a greater competitor. And now I get the opportunity to do this and help lead others to do this. And that's my challenge. Take action on this. All right? Take action on this. Who do you aspire to be? And then go put it to the test every single day in practice and self-evaluate in practice. Okay? That's 85% of that self-image. Okay? Reinforce. What did I do well? What did I not do well? And now what actions am I going to take based on that? Okay. So I want you to dive into this. I want to keep this again, like we're trying to keep this short and sweet and give you some themes, some insights, but then some real things you can take moving forward. Okay. Nothing changes if nothing changes. All right. If you continue to move through and take this as information, but not do anything about it, then nothing is going to change. All right. And I challenge you to take action on this today. If you don't like the situation you're in right now, you don't like the environment, check your internal environment first and start taking action on developing it to being the best that it can be, so then you can influence everything around you. All right. So with Meraki Performance, we believe greatness is within each of you. All right. And that's part of that self-image, is truly believing that. And we want you to keep chasing that out. And so if there's anything that we can do to help you, to inspire you, to support you in that, like reach out to us. Check us out on social media at Meraki Perform on just about every social media platform, or at MerakiPerform.com. We are constantly getting out there, especially in West Michigan, and sharing this knowledge and challenging individuals to take action on it. All right. Again, nothing changes if nothing changes. Let's go change something today. All right. Greatness is within. Thanks for being here.